guys, welcome back to the Commercial Law School. Following on from last week's video about how to approach competency questions at the interview stage, this week we're going to be talking about how to approach career motivation questions. When the interviewer asks you these types of questions, they want to know about your aspirations for a career in commercial law, so your answers have to display your passion for a commercial law career. In this video, we will talk about 5 common career motivation questions that we have come across. We will give advice on how to structure the questions and the type of content you can include. So the most common career motivation question you'll come across is why commercial law? And our best advice for this question is to tell your individual story of why you're interested in a commercial law career. So in terms of structuring this answer, you can start off with some context about what sparked your initial interest. Then you can go on to talk about any transferable skills that you have that would make you suitable for a commercial law career. And then you can round off by talking about how you've helped to develop your commercial law interest. And this is something we've actually covered in our How to Answer Common Application Questions video. So rather than repeating ourselves, I'll leave that to play.
If you're asked why are you interested in a law career, you should start from the beginning. When did your attraction to a law career start? You can talk about literally anything. It doesn't have to be commercially related. It can be a criminal case you found interesting or a personal experience with the law. After this, it naturally follows that you start being more specific and explaining why you're attracted to a commercial law career. For example, commercial law allows for a lot more teamwork than perhaps working as a barrister in chambers. Or maybe you find the training process of sitting in different seats quite attractive, as you get to develop a wide range of skills that will make you a well-rounded lawyer. Be sure to outline the skills you have that would make you a good commercial lawyer. For example, any research tasks you've done will be transferable as trainees have to undertake due diligence. Or perhaps you've had to negotiate in a high-pressure situation and you had a positive outcome. This skill is transferable when sitting in seats such as dispute resolution. Our video on what different practice areas do is linked in the description box below, so have a look to ensure that you know what you're talking about. Now you've explained where your interest in law came from, explain what you've done to develop this interest in commercial law. For example, attending insight days, speaking to firms at law fairs and careers events, or doing online internships. If you don't have any examples yet to showcase this, many law firms run some free virtual workshops where you complete fictional tasks that trainees would do. You don't have to apply to be eligible for this. So if you're looking to display an interest in commercial law, it would be advisable to complete one of these.
Another common career motivation question is about whether you've considered any other career path. The key to this question is about being able to identify what differentiates commercial law from other careers. With this question, it's useful to signpost so that your answer has a good structure. You could say, I have considered 2 career paths, one of them being an investment banker and the other being a barrister. Then you go on to talk about these in more detail. So in terms of the actual content you'd talk about for each career path, you could start off with some background about the other career path that you've considered. Then you can talk about why you're not suited to that career path, and then you can round off with talking about why you're more suited to a commercial law career. So this is a very brief example, but you could say something like, in the past, I've considered becoming a barrister because I wanted to provide specialist knowledge to clients, so I did some work experience shadowing a barrister at chambers to find out what life is like. However, I soon came to realise that barristers tend to work alone, and there can sometimes be a competitive streak between other barristers, and I prefer working as part of a larger, collegiate team. Therefore, I feel that I am more suited to a commercial law career, where the lawyers work as part of a larger team for one mutual outcome. I was able to gain this insight from speaking to a trainee at the firm about her working life. As I mentioned before, that was a more brief example, so you could definitely bulk up your own answer and add more detail. Another career motivation question asks how you feel about working long hours, and interviewers ask you this question because it helps to give them some perspective about your working culture and ideals. There is no doubt that a commercial law career will often require you to work long hours, so you should avoid negative comments about working long hours. Instead, if this career path is really for you, you should be able to embrace the long hours and show a flexibility and willingness to stay later to get the job done. So in terms of structure, you could first talk about your thoughts about working long hours. Then you could end with an example of when you've had to work long hours to get something done. This can help to show the interviewer that you are flexible where necessary. So when I was answering this question, I informed the interviewer that I was aware that a commercial law career would sometimes require working long hours, and I was happy to sacrifice my time where necessary. But it's important to only say something like this if you truly mean it. Then I went on to talk about an example of when I have worked long hours to get the job done. I spoke about staying late whilst working at the pub, so your example does not necessarily have to be a legal experience. And then I used the star structure to give more detail. Again, this is a very brief and personal example, so use your own experiences to personalise your answer and to give your own take on how you truly feel about working long hours. A fourth common career motivation question is about typical trainee tasks. It's all well and good saying that you have a passion for commercial law, but if you can't talk about what that career entails, then the interviewers are likely to question this passion. Again, you should signpost your answer, especially if you're talking about more than one typical trainee task. In terms of structuring your answer for each task, you could start off with some context and some background about the typical trainee task, and then you can see whether you can relate any of your past experiences to this typical task. So as a brief example, I spoke about trainees drafting board or shareholder minutes, whereby if there is a meeting with a client or between the team, trainees will be responsible for taking the notes down. Then I linked that typical trainee task to my own experience of being a charity trustee member and having to draft the minutes for our meetings. Again, this is a very brief and very personal example, so make sure you personalise your answer and bulk it up. A final common career motivation question is about whether you are interested in any practice areas. A key piece of advice is that if you're going to talk about a practice area, make sure it's a practice area that the firm actually offers. Again, you should signpost your answer if you're going to talk about more than one practice area. So you could say, I'm interested in 2 practice areas that the firm offers, which are banking and finance and dispute resolution, and then go into more detail. So in terms of the content to include for each practice area, you could start off by simply stating the practice area, and then you could talk about why you're interested in that practice area, how you've increased your exposure to that practice area, and then mention that you're still open-minded to try other practice areas. So for example, you could say something like, I am interested in the banking and finance practice area, and I know that the firm has a lot of experience and expertise within this area, so I look forward to experiencing this practice area on my training contract. So then, you need to convince the interviewer about why you're interested in that practice area. You may have read an interesting news story, or an interesting deal, or completed an internship in that practice area. Whatever it is, it just needs to display your interest. And then, to show the interviewer that you're proactive and genuinely interested in that practice area, you can tell them about what you've done to increase your exposure to that practice area. So it may be a virtual internship scheme or a practice area open day. Finally, you need to convince the interviewer that although you have certain practice area interests, you're still open to trying out new practice areas. This is because during your training contract, you'll be sitting in different seats. So although you might enjoy the banking and finance practice area, you still need to show the same enthusiasm and dedication to other practice areas. So these are not the only career motivation questions you can be tested on. There are loads of other questions you can find on Google that you can practice, but these are just some of the common questions that we've come across. We hope that you found this video useful, and if you have, please like, share, comment and subscribe. Also, you can find a link in the description bar to purchase City Career Series' new training contract handbook. And you can also find the link to purchase a ticket to their Commercial Awareness Bootcamp on the 28th of November. Thanks for watching. See you next week.